Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Farming Simulator 22 and we're bringing you possibly the last of this series of videos where I show you some mods that will allow you to use whatever your favorite brand is in right around the 80s. I don't have a good name for it. That's a bad name. But anyway, we're looking at John Deere today. So this is 1980s John Deere Technology Day. And before we dive into all of the meat of this video, I would just like to say I have a link to my real-life farming channel in the description and hopefully a pinned comment. If you are interested in real-life farming content and you like my content in general, I recommend checking it out and possibly subscribing if you like it, because I think all the content I make over there is pretty entertaining and well-made. But that's all for that. As for the mods that I'm going to show in this video, all of those will also be linked in the description. So before we dive into the various different mod options, and there are a lot of them today, I just want to give a brief little history of John Deere, just in case 2 or 3 of you out there have not heard of them. John Deere as the company traces its origins all the way back to the early 1800s with the invention of the steel plow. So it goes back a while, and for a while they were, a plow company. In 1918 they started making tractors though, and they did not actually have that large of a market share until the 1970s. They started taking over quite a bit, and they ended up actually winning the 1980s tractor war in many, many different ways. So they're not the only brand that still exists all the way through, but they're the one that managed to, as far as American companies go, managed to remain unchanged all the way through from inception to current day. And they are, of course, one of the leading tractor brands in the entire world as of right now in 2024. So John Deere is a fairly well-known tractor company, probably the most well-known tractor company in the world. And what we're doing today is, like I said at the beginning, using a series of mods to introduce a full lineup of John Deere tractors from the 1980s. And so we've got a bunch of different series. We have the 40 series from 1982, the 50 series that was introduced in 1983, the 650s, or 650 and 850 are also from 1983, the 47 or the 4955 and the 4960 from 1989, and so that's the latest. And then we have the 8850, which is the great big horse from 1982, and the Turbo 8820 Combine from 1978. So if you were a farmer in 1989 and you were a John Deere user, this is the lineup of tractors that would be most contemporary for you to purchase. So I figured they were the ones I wanted to use. And now I don't have every single model lined up here that you could do with this mod. There are at least 3 models that are redundant, so they were from 2 different series, but they had the same horsepower. So I just made sure I have 1 from each horsepower. So let's just go down the line, starting at the smallest with the John Deere 4040. This is a 110 horsepower tractor. Then we have the John Deere 4240, which is a 128 horsepower tractor. We have the John Deere 4250 from the 50 series, which is a 140 horsepower tractor. We have the John Deere 4350, which is a 144 horsepower tractor. The John Deere 4440, which is the largest of the 40 series, or the second largest of the 40 series, and is a 155 horsepower tractor. We have the John Deere 4450, which is a 160 horsepower tractor. The John Deere 4640, which is the largest of the 40 series, and is a 177 horsepower tractor. The John Deere 4650, which is a 190 horsepower tractor. And the John Deere 4850, which is a 215 horsepower tractor. So this is our first one over 200 horsepower. Then we have the John Deere 4955, which is a 228 horsepower tractor. The 4960, which is a 275 horsepower tractor. The 8850, which I believe is a 370 horsepower articulated 4-wheel drive tractor. And of course the Turbo 8820, which is a rather large combine that they offered from 78 till I believe 85 when they introduced the second generation, which the major distinction there, other than having a different engine, was instead of having a yellow top cab, they had a green top cab, but they look pretty much the same other than that. So that's our full lineup. We go all the way from our smallest one at 110 horsepower to our largest one at 370 horsepower, with a couple 200 plus horsepower offerings right near the top. So a very, very good lineup for farming in general, and of course a very usable lineup for Farming Simulator 2022. One of the problems I often run into when I do one of these videos where I want to offer a full lineup of tractors is in that higher horsepower offering. A lot of times we don't have one that's big enough for the largest equipment in the game. Well, I mean, we still don't, because this is only 370 horsepower, but you can use some very big equipment with that. And our next couple biggest are in the 200s, so you can still use pretty substantial stuff with all of them. So let's just take a look at the mod offerings themselves. So we don't have any in the small tractor range through any of these mods. So if you want to have a small old John Deere, you're probably going to have to find some sort of a different mod for that. But most of them are in the medium range. So you can see that once we get up to the top, we have the 40 series, the 50 series, the second half of the 50 series, which is those the two bigger ones, and then we have the largest ones, both in 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive. I think all of these were made by the same mod author because they all, except for these top two, which have one extra detail, all of these ones, so the 4650, 4050, and the 4440s, that you see here, they all have the same exact options all across the board. So I'll just show you one from each so you believe me. So here we have the 4040, which has 110 horsepower, the 4240, which has 128 horsepower, 4440 with 155 horsepower, 4640 with 177 horsepower. So that's the full 40 range. Here we've got a variety of wheel choices. So we have Trelleborg, Michelin, Continental, Midas, BKT, Verdstein, Nokian tires, so quite a few options there. Then we have all of the same options, trust me, again, across all of these different models. So we have default 2-wheel drive, broad 2-wheel drive, twin wheels, back 2-wheel drive, default front wheel assist, broad front wheel assist, twin wheels back, front wheel assist, twin wheels all. And so those are the options we have for all of these John Deere tractors that we're going to be looking at. We also have two different generations. We have Gen 1 and Gen 1 US. I made all of the ones US because, you know, that's where it's from. We have warning triangle, yes or no. That puts a little warning triangle on the front. We have fenders, yes or no, which don't seem to do anything. Yeah, I didn't notice them doing anything, so I kept them all at no. GPS, yes or no, so it gives us a monitor inside the cab and a little GPS globe on top. Beacon, yes or no. Well, actually left, right, all or no. Left, right, both, no. Then we have, for our front attachment, several options. We have the weight block. We have 900 kilograms. We've got the front hitch and the front hitch LaForge. So various different options there. For all of mine, I went with the 900 kilograms. And then we have color options. So you have used, original, and restored. So here's both of them for used. Here's both of them for original, which is the color I went with for all of my tractors. And here's all of them for restored, so you get that extra shiny gloss coat. And just to show you that I am telling the truth, that they all have the same options, we can pop up to the 4650s up here, and you'll see the same stuff. So the 4650, 190 horsepower, and each one of these has two options, so you either have the quad range or the power shift, then the 4850 power shift. So all of those are the same. So same tire options, as you can see, going all the way through. Same wheel setup options going all the way through. Gen 1 or Gen 1 US, warning triangle, yes or no. Fenders, yes or no, which again doesn't do anything. GPS, it's still yes or no, but it specifically says Starfire 3000 now. Beacon, left, right, both, no. Weight block, 900 kilograms. Front hitch LaForge, and the same color choices: used, original, restored. So, like I said, all of those exactly the same. The only time where we get a different option in these is when we go up into the two largest. So you can see the 4755 front wheel assist and 2-wheel drive. So they have different ones for this. So the change option here is standard, or we can choose to add an auxiliary fuel tank. I think that looks hilarious, and so I said no for that. Other than that, you can see 4755 and 4955. 4760 is a 215 horsepower tractor, so that is a redundancy over the 4850. So that's why I don't have one, but it does have the front stairs that look a little bit different. The 4960 is the same thing, so you can see that slight difference. Plenty of options for tires. We have Lizard and Michelin, and then we have standard, rear twin, or if we go to Lizard, we can do Firestone wheel weights, Firestone rear duals and weights, Firestone chopper dual, so we have two on one side, dual with weights. So a couple different options there, less so though. Design, we have 0, weight bracket, weights new 6, weights new 12, weights new 20, or the rock box. We also have beacon options for this one, so with beacons, without, air stack black stock, air stack chrome stock, air stack black turbo, air stack chrome turbo. So we get some extra muffler options. Design, we get the Starfire GPS or not. Attachers, standard, or we can have a front hitch and front front-facing PTO, which is fun. And then we have a front loader option. So fairly the only difference there. So like I said, the 4650, 4050, and the 440, those three all have exactly the same options. These top two have slightly different tops, but still pretty similar. Then for our large tractor, which is in the large tractor section, we have the 8850, which, yep, I was right, 370 horsepower. So this one does not have many options. We have factory curved for our exhaust, or factory straight, and then we have flashers or no flash. So those are all the options. It comes stock with a pin hitch and PTO, no 3-point. Plenty of hydraulics though, so you can use it for anything that's not 3-point. But yeah, 370 horsepower for that big boy. And then of course we have a harvester. So in the harvester section, we have the 8820 turbo combine added in. And again, not a lot of options here. So 200 horsepower engine, broad rear egg for our wheel setup, broad rear rib, duals rear egg. So I think I went with the duals rear egg. And then with that, we also have the option for a header. So we have a 925 John Deere header that we can use for this, and default or wheat spikes, and then a 643 corn header, which doesn't have any option. So that is it for the lineup. So like I said, taking out the 3 models that were redundant because of horsepower, we end up with 12 tractors and a combine. And they all sound pretty good, fairly well done. All of the stock early ones sound exactly the same, and then there's a slightly different sound for the bigger ones, very different sound for the 4x4, and then of course the combine. So we'll take a look at the sound and the cabs for each of these. So we'll start with the 4040. So sounds pretty good. Interior cab also looks quite good. We have a lot of detail inside here, which I quite enjoy. You can read everything that, has words. You can see that the readouts on the digital display actually change. And when we drive, things are actually used. So you can see us using the throttle, the brakes, the shift levers, and the clutch. So all good there. Definitely an acceptable level of detail. Now, if we check one of the bigger ones, so starting at the 4650, you can see I delineated them by making them front wheel assist. We'll pop into the 4650. So again, high quality sound files. Interior cab again has a high level of detail. You can see all of our stuff. We can actually read it on the dash. It changes. And we are once again using all of the pedals and levers as is appropriate. So once again, an excellent level of detail, and it's well done quality wise. And we'll go into our biggest of these standard front wheel assists, the 4960. For that one, you can see that there's an animation where we open the cab door to get in, which is always fun. A slightly deeper rumble when we started it up. And for the interior, once again, we've got an acceptable level of detail and accuracy. It does look like these cabs looked in real life. It's a little bit snug inside here, but they were in real life. You can see that once again, we're using everything as we're driving. So you can actually see our pedals and levers being adjusted. Our throttle is adjusted as we go up and down. So like I said, very high quality mods. I have nothing to complain about in that regard. Some of the other videos I've done in this series, even though I like the way that the tractors look and sound and act and it's fun to have them, the interior detail is lacking. Well, none of these are. You can see there for our big horse, we definitely have a much louder tractor. The interior of it, though, looks pretty dang good. It's got the tan interior that you would sometimes see in this era of Deeres, which is a little bit off-putting for me. It's not as detailed as all the rest of them, but it's still more than detailed enough. You can read everything that's going on. And once again, we have an example of a mod where we don't have all of the interior stuff actually moving as we're driving. So that's a disappointment, but I did want to have a big horse in this lineup because if you want to be able to use a lot of the larger equipment in this game, you need to have something with over 300 horse. And this one has 370, so it's big enough and it runs good enough and has a good sound, so I'll allow the fact that the interior details aren't as good as the rest. But then lastly, we of course added in the Turbo 8820 John Deere Combine. You can see we've got a very distinct idling engine sound for the 8820, but the running sound is pretty quiet. As far as operation, piping out is suitably slow, as would be expected for an old combine like this. The other unfortunate thing is it doesn't go out far past the header, so it is one of those situations where, depending what you're piping into, you might have to maneuver a little bit. As for the head itself, you can lower it down and turn it on. It's decently noisy, but nothing crazy. For the interior of the cab, we have our classic old combine lowered visibility, so if you're used to using the newer combines, it might drive you nuts driving in first person in this old one, because our visibility to the right is pretty much nothing, and to the front, especially with the header up, is very limited. We do have a lot of detail inside, and it's actually pretty high resolution for some of it, like the gauges. Looks great. Unfortunately, we don't see any movement inside the cab, so overall detail's pretty good, but the animation detail is lacking inside this combine. But overall, it's still a very cool option to have it in the lineup. So that is it. That's the whole spiel I've got for this video. Like I said, I think that the 80s John Deere lineup is a pretty good one. It's well balanced. Like I said, we get all the way down to 110 horsepower, so even for quite a few small operations, that's a pretty good tractor. And then up to a couple over 200 and one at almost 400 horsepower, and a pretty big combine. So all around, if you want to farm like a John Deere farmer in the 80s, this is a great lineup. And like I said, all those links are in the description, as is the link for my real life farming channel. But that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.